Bases drop for Tuesday Thoughts here on SDH AM. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. Interesting show today on a couple of different fronts. First and foremost, we got to get through opening kickoff, and it has to do with the road trips I was taking yesterday. Then we've got to get into the U17 tournament, and for the United States, that means going to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We caught up last night with James Donaldson, Atlanta United Academy product, starting keeper in match number 1, getting ready for match day 3. If it is a win or a draw against the Dominican Republic, they're in the World Cup in November in Qatar. So we caught up with James last night, thanks to our buddy Aiden Trusty at US Soccer for this. And let's just say it was interesting. We'll get into that as we talk to James here in hour number 1. Hour number 2 at 10 o'clock, we're going to catch up with Villanova Professor Bret Myers. And this is an interesting discussion since we are in the World Cup window. It is Bret Myers has been delving into analytics. He has a history of analytics with Toronto FC and Philadelphia Union. Now he's applying it to the U.S. men's national team as we get ready for the World Cup. He has research that focuses on analytics to improve decision-making in sports businesses, delivering results on the field, managing ops to achieve strategic objectives. He served as an analytics consultant for Toronto and Philly. And so he's going to come on at 10. And I want to ask about how much of a soccer guy he is, what his time was like in MLS, and now how his analytics can explain the USMNT. And maybe we get him to open up the crystal ball a little bit and see what his crystal ball says about the USMNT coming up in the World Cup. That's at 10 o'clock. In between all of that, we've got to obviously get into the Triple C. CONCACAF Champions Cup kicks off tonight with San Diego and Pumas. And for those that are in the Discord, that's a part of Picks of the Week. We'll get into that matchup a little bit. We'll get into the rest of what we know from the U17 tournament. And also, it came out literally at 9 o'clock this morning, the new Forbes evaluations with Major League Soccer and Sportico's evaluations when it comes to Major League Soccer. And so we'll get into that. And there are some interesting numbers that are out. And our friend Kurt Badenhausen is at the front of the line with all of that. So Sportico evaluations are out for Major League Soccer, and so we'll go into that. So it's the Sportico evaluations for MLS. Like I said, interesting numbers. Then we've also got the U17s. We've got CONCACAF. We've got Bret Myers at 10 o'clock. We hear from James Donaldson here in hour number 1. So opening kickoff. Morning, David. Morning, Ricky. And yes, tonight, show of hands, how many of you are going? So we get the look at kit number 3 this evening for Atlanta United. And it's anticipated green and gold. Don't know what the actual designs are. I just know I'm going to the poorhouse. So Maddie and Jason will be there for that. And it's going to be at the Delta hangar, the Delta Museum. So very, very cool that that's going to be there. And obviously they'll be there. Keep an eye out on their social media for what it looks like. Because, he said, our high school coverage starts tonight. Roswell and River Ridge, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Drew Dickinson will have the 6 o'clock for you because I will be catching up with Ronan Wynn simultaneously in the parking lot at River Ridge High School. And he'll have the girls' game for you. I will have primary call on the boys' game at 8 o'clock. So our coverage starts earnest with the high schools and the GHSA. The Wednesday midweek show, the Red Clay Soccer Report, is back at noon tomorrow. And we're going to catch up with coaches all around the state, getting you ready for everything. Lake Oconee Academy, looks like we'll have Walton on tape. Maybe a trip to Johnson, Gainesville, when we catch up with Kelly Bowler at Johns Creek to preview the Creek Cup a little bit about the logistics and what it's like to prepare for that tournament and everything. So that's what that's going to look like. Red Clay Soccer Report, noon tomorrow. So your high school lunch hour is with high school coaches starting again tomorrow. But our high school coverage starts tonight, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. It is Roswell, it is River Ridge, and it is at 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock on the network. Easiest way to get to that activity is to just go to our website at soccerdownhere.net, go to the Listen tab, you hit that, and then you find out which one of our Mixlr channels or both, when Creek Cup is running this weekend, is up and running. And so all you have to do is look for the live, and you look for the flashing red light. Hey, there's something going on there. What is it? It should be telling you in the scroll what the event is. You hit that, you listen, you're off and running, and there you go. So that is what's up today and a little bit about what's going on tomorrow. So like I said, high school coverage in earnest. The sprint begins, and in the logistical rundown, we are now from now until, let's see, on our air until late April with the high school coverage, to combine with the twos, to combine with coverage of Atlanta United, to combine with coverage of something called the World Cup. So we're off and running. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. All right. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Let me get the read here quickly. Start your day with the most important stories in the game and the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, a part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy-bodied notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Okay, yesterday, and this is one of those as well. I think of it as home and away. So if it's home and away, and I'm thinking alternate. So if this ends up being the away kit, I'm looking at it like David's asking if it's kit 3 or kit 2. I'm thinking that you're going to have the home kit being the home kit. You're going to have the away kit being the away kit, and this will be the kit that is what we've seen in the past with the alternate designs and such. So that's my interpretation of it. So that's what I'm looking at. But now that David has me thinking about it, I'm going to be obsessive and find out which one it is. And so now he's got me thinking twice. Okay, so the community kit launch. Okay. All right, it is the Spirited 96 community kit. So the new community kit is how it is listed. So it's going to be Delta Flight Museum for season ticket members, and it's going to be once again it's at the Delta Flight Museum, and it's the community kit. Brad Gazan, Olympians with ties to Atlanta, the Flight Museum. And so that's how I'm perceiving it. It's the new community kit, where it's been like the 404 kit in the past, the Resurgence kit in the past. This to me would be in that vein. Home, away, community. If I'm wrong and it's just community and away, then it's 2. I've always thought of it as home, away, and the community kit. So like home, away in the 404, home, away in the Resurgence. So I'm thinking that this goes into that category. So that it's so the interview availability is tonight. So keep an eye on Maddie and Jason's socials, and they will have all of the intel and info for you. Yeah, and David, I think that's the Resurgence kit from last year. So it would be like home, away, and the third one, or the community. So if the community ends up being the substitute, so you've got like the home, so you got like the 5 stripes kit, that's the red and black stripes. Then you have the other one that is the road lighter color, and then you have the community kit. So I'm confused, damn it. All right. So anyway, I'm confused. So I'm thinking it's a third kit. If it ends up being the second kit, then it's the second kit. But I've always thought of home, away, and community as 3 kits. So if the community kit ends up being the secondary one that you wear on the road, so be it. I'm confused. What else is new? So, all right. So that's this afternoon and tonight, community kit unveiling, and I'm going to the poorhouse. So if this is the new away, Resurgence was 2 years. Was it 2 years away? Wow. Because you're allowed, 2-year cycles? Okay. So if this is the new away kit, then it's 2. So that's home with the 5 stripes, and then the away kit would be the green and gold for this year. I will take your word for it. I will stipulate that y'all are correct. I have no earthly idea what I'm talking about. So there you go. Okay, so that's this afternoon and tonight. Keep an eye on Maddie and Jason's socials, and they'll have all of the stuff. And like I said, I'm going to the poorhouse. That much I do know. All right, so opening kickoff. Yesterday after the show and before soccer over there, it was time for the yearly checkup. And I'm not a fan of doctor's offices, just in general. I don't like doctor's offices, and I don't like needles. I don't like giving blood. I don't like the x-rays. I don't like examinations. It's a necessary evil. I get it. I'm not a fan of it. So yesterday I thought I was just going into the doctor's office yesterday for just a renewal of the prescriptions because it was that point. And one of my prescriptions, you can't give on a 180 day basis. You've got to do it on 90s. And so I go in and I'm thinking that yesterday was just one of those where you sit down, you give your vitals, and they tell you that, you're too fat. And then you're on your way. It's like, okay, well, what else are you here for? Well, EKG and this and this and this and whatever. So I'm thinking this was just going to be like a car wash. You get in, get out, get vacuumed, get all the crap out of the car, and then you're on your way after like 10 minutes. It's like going to the detailer and getting the first option. No. The physician's assistant, the PA, says that it's that time of year where I'm supposed to do my physical again. And I was like, oh, okay. When was the last one that I did? And she goes, oh, it was February last year. I'm like, okay, so I guess it is time for the physical. And I just was like, yeah, okay, let it be. Whatever it is, fine. All right. So just can we get this done so I can get the heck out of here? And of my issues with the parking in these offices, and we'll get into that in a second. But I go in, and it ends up being the yearly physical. They ended up pulling 3 vials of blood out of me for 3 separate exams, I guess because it was that time of year. Literally, it's like I go and I go into, have the exam, and everything's fine, I guess. Because they sent results this morning into my email, and I'm going to probably freak out after the show is over, but have the exam. Okay, fine. You know where the blood work is? I go, yeah. And then you go across the hall, sit down, and they have you like put your arm out straight. I'm used to just kind of hanging it on the armrest, just kind of with a little bit of relax, but they want it to be straight so they can sit there and they can tap and look for a vein and make sure that that they can find a vein. So I thought my veins were pretty accessible. I thought that, you do the thing where you clench your fist, a couple of times, and it kind of makes things exposed and popped up. And so I clenched my fist, opened up and closed it, and went from the 90-degree angle, like the 45-degree angle, to do it like, straight out. And they pulled 3 vials of blood out of me yesterday. And I was shocked when I got home because, you're supposed to sit there and they put the gauze on you, and they tape the whole injury and the bandage and everything. And so I take the bandage off, and it turns out that there is this, and I'm not really going to show it unless you want to look close up for those watching on TV, but literally there is a spot the size of about a dime where they tried to, and it's left of the target. Well, it's right at the target if you're trying to look at it from the PA's perspective, but left of the target from my perspective. And literally 3 vials of blood, and there was this spot the size of a dime when I was pulling the gauze off yesterday. Shocked the hell out of the boss about just how much was there. And I was like, oh, okay, so I guess they didn't really hit it. I mean, it felt fine when they put the needle in, but you sit there and you look at it, and there's this big blanking bruise that's right there. And I had no earthly idea that was going to be the end result of all of this. And it reminds me why I don't like doctor's offices, because of everything that they pull out of you. And then you sit there and it's like, oh, everything's fine. You look down and you see this big spot of bruising and everything. So, yes, I'm a baby. But no, I'm not a fan of doctor's offices. That happened yesterday, and just the sheer scope of what they pulled out of my system, and then seeing this massive bruise when I got home. So, yeah, it was another adventure to the doctor's office. Now, the parking thing, for those that may not have heard the story, I've always thought that when you go to the doctor's office, the parking situation is rigged because it is done either like on the quarter hour or half hour, and so on. I will go into the building, and literally every single time I go and park, they will keep me for like an hour and 3 minutes. It's like, I swear to God that there's a link that shows up to someone in the doctor's office the second you check in. You come in through the gate that shows your check-in time into the parking lot, and they will do whatever they need to do to keep you over an hour. Instead of just the express lane, oh, you're here for this, this, and this. They don't have like a separate lot just off to the side, less than an hour over here, flat rate. No, it's literally every single time that I swear I go to the doctor's office, it's like an hour and then somewhere between an hour and a minute and an hour and 10 minutes. It's never like 48 minutes or anything like that. So I get everything done, and it's like an hour 3. So you've got to pay the hour rate as opposed to the 45-minute rate or the half hour to an hour rate. Always happens every single time. So I would say that the parking folks and the doctor's office, they have some kind of a handshake agreement about rights fees. Hey, if we give you this parking lot and you check in, we have to make sure that the gate either gives your check-in time and that everything is delayed. It's like, oh, when do you check in? Somebody at the desk looks at it and they sit there and they go, okay, all right, so 27 minutes, they're here, and he looks at it, and it's, okay, and then you're done, you check out, oh, it's like an hour 5. Every single time, I swear, this happens. Every single time. I'm just saying. I'm just like, none of this surprises me. None of this surprises me at all. And so once again, you end up paying for an hour 5, and you move on from there. So 3 vials of blood, big blank and bruise with a needle, and just paying over the hour rate for parking. Ho, inspiring movie maker, you're about to get blocked. Oh, and it's a Russian website too. Even better. Even better. That's definitely the way to end opening kickoff this morning. Blocking a Russian bot site. Those are always fun in Twitch. So, inspiring movie maker DTC Go, if that is in fact your real name, you're about to get blocked and reported because you're a bot. So, let's see. Viewer solicitation bot. 23 characters out of 2,000 sent. Thanks for submitting your report. Okay. Bye. You've been blocked and reported. All right. So that's opening kickoff. I'm a baby. I hate needles. I have a big bruise on my arm. And I always end up paying for an hour plus in parking. Maybe they know I talk about it all the time. And so they're saying, yeah, we'll keep him for an hour or an hour 2. That's opening kickoff, brought to you by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. We start your day with the most important stories in the game right away to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy-bodied, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. So that I'll have to get that for the boss, and I'll have to see what she thinks. She is the coffee drinker in the household. And so we will find out what the boss thinks about Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. So as the coffee drinker here in the house, I will yield to her opinions. Okay. This afternoon, it is win, draw, or in for the U17s. And it is an opportunity for the United States, if they win their group, to head on to the U17 World Cup in Qatar in November. Groups B, C, D, and E are where the fun is going to be today. Just to lay it all out for you, when it comes to the standings in the U17 tournament, once again, 8 group winners. You end up with all of those folks, those group winners, they advance. So after 3 matches in Group A, because it is a 4-game group, they still have stuff to play for, and it's Mexico and Trinidad and Tobago. It is those two with 3 wins on the board for Mexico. They have only given up 1 goal in competition so far. They scored 10 against St. Martin, 4 against St. Martin, and then it was a 4-1 win last night against Barbados. So they are in the barn right now, 3 wins, 9 points. Trinidad needs for Mexico to lose since they lost their first match in group. And Barbados, who's officially now lost the tiebreaker to Mexico in the group. So Mexico's goal difference is plus 17. Mexico needs to lose the next time out, and they need to, and Trinidad needs to win in their head-to-head. So Trinidad needs to win, and they need to overcome a massive goal difference right now. But it looks like it's Mexico's with math that's going to be involved next time that they go out and play. Group B, Panama, Nicaragua. It's going to come down to that matchup because Panama and Nicaragua have beaten Dominica and Anguilla. And there's a 2-goal difference in right now, plus 11 to plus 9. So when Panama and Nicaragua play in Group B, the last match in their stage, it's going to come down to that one. Panama draws, they're in. Panama loses, then they're out. Nicaragua is in. And obviously Panama beats Nicaragua, then they're in. So those are your combinations there. Panama and Nicaragua separated by 2 goals, have the same number of points, and they have beaten both sides when it comes to Anguilla and Dominica. And they obviously are 0-2, and Anguilla has yet to score a goal in the tournament in Group B, and Dominica has scored twice, but obviously both of them having lost both matches, they're out of consideration. Panama, Nicaragua, the end result there, both at 6 points. What happens there will determine who goes. Group C, Guatemala, Haiti. They've taken care of both Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda, so it's going to come down to that head-to-head matchup between those two in Group C. Both at 6 points, 1 goal separating them in goal difference. Draw does Haiti no good because, once again, they're behind in goal difference. So Haiti has to win. Guatemala wins. Winner of that one, or if Guatemala draws because they have superior goal difference, they would advance out of Group C. Group D, it's going to be Costa Rica and Puerto Rico when they square off because Costa Rica put 9 on the Turks and Caicos and put 26 on the British Virgin Islands. Turks and Caicos and the British Virgin Islands have not scored a goal in the group so far. They play each other on match day last, so we'll see what happens there. But Costa Rica right now has a plus 35 in goal difference. It was 17-0 at the half. They kicked 3 field goals in the second half, won 26-0 against the British Virgin Islands back on Saturday. And so that's where you are in Group D. Unless Puerto Rico beats Costa Rica and overcomes a 20-goal difference, it's going to be Costa Rica advancing out of Group D. Group E is where we're going to focus our time coming up in a bit. It's going to come down to the U.S. and the Dominican Republic this afternoon. St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Vincent and the Grenadines both losing to the U.S. and the Dominican Republic. St. Kitts has a goal difference of minus 15. St. Vincent a goal difference of minus 18. But USA, Dominican Republic, coming up this afternoon. We'll catch up with James Donaldson in a bit. Group F, Cuba and El Salvador. You could have some craziness here. Curacao is at 1 point. Belize is at 1 point. Obviously, they will not advance. When Cuba takes on El Salvador, they took on El Salvador and gave El Salvador the loss. So literally it would have to come down to a win by El Salvador, but then you get into head-to-head and goal difference and all that kind of stuff. Cuba right now in the driver's seat in Group F. Group G, as Bart discussed on Monday, Canada is 8 behind in goal difference. Both teams have taken out Aruba and the Cayman Islands. Canada won 5-1 3-0 over the Caymans. Jamaica beat the Cayman Islands 12-0 and beat Aruba 3-0. Obviously, Aruba and the Cayman Islands not in consideration out of Group G. Canada would have to win and overcome the massive goal difference of 8, which I don't quite see happening. So Jamaica probably advancing out of Group G. Honduras, Group H, which is a 3-team group, which is somewhat confusing considering that Group A has 5. Honduras, Guyana, Bermuda. Guyana's in the barn at 3 points. Honduras needs a point against Bermuda to advance out of Group H. We'll go over to start times and what to watch coming up here in a bit. But the group we're paying attention to is Group E. And it is an opportunity for the United States to make it to the U17 World Cup in Qatar. And they do so with either a draw or a win against the Dominican Republic this afternoon. Last night, we caught up with James Donaldson. And let's just say it was adventurous. It was a bit of an adventure with internet and communication, consistent communication signals out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. What I didn't realize was literally how far Office HD is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so I'm going to go on the Google Maps machine because I looked at it and I was like, that's pretty blank and far because it's in the Caribbean. So let's see, was it Kingstown? Let's see, Kingstown, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. Okay, so it is a 4-hour and 25-minute flight from Atlanta to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So flights, yes. Walking, to walk, you can't calculate it. But it is a 4-hour and 25-minute flight if you want to go from here to there. Literally where St. Vincent and the Grenadines are, in the line of islands that make up the Caribbean, they are basically second to last before you get to the Venezuelan coast. Venezuelan coast, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, Barbados. And that's like if you're sweeping up this way. So we tried, and like I said, I give Aiden Trustee at U.S. Soccer a boatload of credit. Last night, we tried to establish communication with James Donaldson in the hotel room. We kind of got it. And so here is the back and forth, and I've kind of edited his responses into conversation here. So here is what we got to talk to James about, and we'll go ahead and give this a shot. So let me go ahead and, like I said, here are his responses from last night, and I'm going to give you the questions as we go because I was trying to do. I was trying to figure out how to make this go, and so here we go about making this go. First question has to do with the experience in and of itself. So how has the experience been so far, being 4.5 hours on a flight from home?
Experience has been great, being with guys all over the country, getting to connect with them and kind of be with the best players that, the US has to offer is great for us. So it's been a great opportunity, great experience, and I'm grateful, and I would never, take this
So then what about
opportunity, so I'm thankful for it.
So then what about the idea of teamwork and being together as a unit? How's that
I think it's great. I think it's great. We all have a great connection together.
going?
A lot of us have, been together through multiple camps, so we're working together through past camps all since U15, U16. A lot of us have been together, so we've been working really well as a country.
Then what about focusing on yourself in these situations where the games come up
So
fast and furious?
we will go over the opponent once, but we really like to go over ourselves, lead to our game, and we're focusing on ourselves and how we play as a team. Then we go to the opponent, but at the end of the day, we work on ourselves and we want to play the US way.
So then what is the US way? It has to do with keywords, right?
We have cultural anchors. We have cultural anchors that we use to so we a bunch of keywords, put us together, and then it just over time it gets us onto the field and we use it to our advantage.
Cultural ankles and keywords. What do you think about CONCACAF in general?
We respect all the teams that are in it, right? They're all going to be decent. They're all going to be good players of a team. It's always going to be competitive, and they're always going to be there's always going to be a decent game, no matter who you're playing. So we really just focus on ourselves, but to make sure, that it's a good competition.
And what about going up the time with Atlanta?
For sure, and over
the time with Atlanta United, how has that helped working in this process?
Obviously, I have to thank the coaches and the players for helping me coach, they're coaching me and getting me to the opportunities and giving me certain opportunities that maybe some other people. So I'm very thankful for that. 16 year when we went to the finals, we lost unfortunately. But I think that experience helps. It helps me, get to the next level and improve myself day in and day out because I'm losing. So that being with Atlanta, big thing, we like to win. So that also helps me drive and motivates myself and motivates the team.
So what do you think you need to work on to get to the next level as a goalkeeper?
I think at the end of the day, you're never complete fully. I think, just being composed and, knowing what to do in the right moments, just continuing to learn on and off the field is a big thing for me. Just definitely just being brave, be out, being able to play with the teammates that I have, and communicating and continuing to be a leader is just a big thing for me.
All right, so you're in St Vincent, the Grenadines. You're not close to home. What's it like being this far
As
away
you
from
go
home?
on with these camps, you realize that you're blessed to be with the players and the coaches and stuff you have. Obviously, it's just great to be with other people, but you do miss home at times, for sure. You miss home, but at the end of the day, you get to be playing the sport you want to play all around the world. So
All right, what about the Dominican Republic this afternoon?
obviously, respect to Dominican Republic, they're a great team. They're a great team, so we can't take them lightly. We know they're going to be good. We know they're going to give up a strong fight, just like the rest of the teams in the group. You see what they've done in the past, but we're focused on ourselves. We're focused, and we know. And as long as we play together and play with our anchors, we know that we can compete at a really high level.
We'll catch up with James once they come back here on U.S. soil and find out what the experience was. And so James Donaldson, keeper for the U.S. national team, was in the first match, did not participate in the second match. And once again, this afternoon, it is decision day for some of the matchups in CONCACAF. But once again, a lot of groups are in play. And so we'll keep an eye on the competitions themselves. A lot of games, once again, happening simultaneously. You have matches that matter across the board. You've got the Costa Rica-Puerto Rico match at 3. You've got the U.S. and the Dominican Republic at 1. You have Haiti-Guatemala. That is at 8 o'clock tonight, as is Panama and Nicaragua. Those are the matchups today that will start to close up the group stage to find out what it's gonna look like. The teams from CONCACAF heading to the U17 World Cup. So once again, thanks to our friends at U.S. Soccer for helping us out and orchestrating that. And like I said, I didn't realize just how far St. Vincent and the Grenadines was from here. But once again, good to know, 4.5-hour flight if you ever need to take it. The one thing I didn't get to ask was what the fan support is like and how many folks made it down to Kingstown to support the United States in group in the qualifiers. But once again, a win or a draw this afternoon for the U.S., and they make it into the U17 World Cup. And they were wearing the bomb pop jerseys earlier in the tournament. So we'll see how they come out and dress today. So once again, you've got matchups at noon. It is British Virgin Islands. They're playing at noon. And once again, U.S. at 1, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico at 3. You've got the Antigua Dominica match at 5. You have the Grenada match at 5. St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Vincent is at 6. Then the 2 matches at 8 o'clock. Once again, Haiti, Guatemala, Panama, Nicaragua, and that gets you set for the U17s today for the U17 qualifiers, getting you ready for the U17 World Cup in Qatar in November. So very, very cool that we were able to pull that off last night. And once again, I beg your forbearance for it being just audio. Morning 4-card. And it was great to hear from James, and thanks to our friends at US Soccer for helping facilitate that. Like I said, we'll try and catch up with them when they're back on this side of the qualifiers, and we'll find out what the experience was like. We're also going to try an effort catching up with Coach Aldaz as well. The U16, the boys national teams camp, that was announced yesterday as well. 4 Atlanta United players are in that particular camp coming up. Starting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, down in Fayetteville at the Arthur M. Blank U.S. Soccer National Training Center. So got a lot of stuff going on with the U.S. these days. So very, very cool stuff there. Speaking of which, since I mentioned the 1 o'clock start, we'll go ahead and do what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it here. Because since we know that it is something that needs to be watched at 1 o'clock, you're going to ask yourself, well, how do we watch it? Probably FIFA Plus, but FIFA Plus is not in our grid. So you can go to FIFA Plus. I think it's pretty safe to say that you can catch up there. BN and BN en Espanol, they're simulcasting Copa Libertadores. Our friend Howard Hamilton spent a couple of minutes getting you ready through the first round of the prelims. And when you go to what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it, brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important. Helps them out, helps us out, helps you out by adding more matches to everything you're already watching. With Fanatis, you get all the BNs, and I mean all the BNs. You get all the BNs. You get Tigo Sports. You get CATV. So that means you can watch the Polish League, the French League, Portugal Cup, the Cup of Portugal, French Cup, CAF Champions League from the African continent, and all the other action that is there for all the BNs. You can get TVV if you want to add Venezuela, and they have Winter League Baseball going on right now. You can watch CDO for the fans. You can watch Teisei out of Argentina. They have lower division activity in Argentina, like the Primera B and so on, and cup competitions and such. And I'm trying to think of who else. Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. And so all these different leagues in South America, you can catch up with them at Fanatis at fntz.co/soccer down here. Copa Libertadores tonight. It is Deportivo Táchira and the strongest, one of our favorite names in the entire process, the strongest in Libertadores. And get the juice boxes on that one since we are here discussing it. Where's my South America? Okay, so Libertadores tonight, just the one matchup, and we're still in the qualification stage. Deportivo Táchira out of Venezuela, favored against the strongest out of Bolivia to -147. Draws a +250, and the strongest on the road are a +403. So you've got qualifications tonight, tomorrow with the second leg of Alianza Lima and Segunda de Mayo. Alianza Lima favored in the matchup at home. And so it was Segunda de Mayo who got a 1-0 result in leg 1. Alianza Lima has to turn that around. In the first leg, it was 2-1 the strongest at home against Deportivo Táchira. So they have some work to do there. And on Thursday, Universidad Católica hosting Juventud out of Uruguay. And Católica had a 1-0 win in the first leg, and they're a big favorite in the second leg. So that is Libertadores right now. Then after that, you get into more qualification next week, this time, Tuesday and Wednesday, more teams playing, and we'll get into that next week. So that is Libertadores right now. And the Sudamericana is March the 3rd. So we've got about another 3 weeks before we get into Sudamericana activity, and we'll give you those juice boxes come March. Now, mentioned that you have that at 7:30 on BN and BN en Espanol simulcast. FS2 is all U17 all afternoon. They've got the U.S.-Dominican Republic match at 3. They've got Costa Rica, Puerto Rico at 1. At 1. USA and Dominican Republic is at 1. Costa Rica, Puerto Rico is at 3. Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada is at 5. And they've got the Triple C tonight at 8 o'clock with Pumas and San Diego FC. 2 to NA has the second match, the back end of the doubleheader as well, with Tigres and Forge. That is at 10 o'clock tonight. Universo has your midweek Premier League action because, remember, this weekend is FA Cup. So they're taking this weekend off, but they're cramming in another match week here in the midweek. Starts with Chelsea and Leeds at 2:30 on Universo. On Peacock, Spurs, Newcastle, Chelsea, Leeds, Everton, Bournemouth, West Ham, and Manchester United is at 3:15. ESPN Plus has the DFB Pokal at 2:45. Paramount Plus has 2 games in League One. Wigan Athletic and Reading. We know where Jess Charman will be. Coppa Italia is at 3 o'clock. And Fox ONE and Fox Soccer Plus have your selections. Fox ONE has all 6 matches in the U17s. Fox Soccer Plus has 3. British Virgin Islands, Turks and Caicos, St. Kitts, St. Vincent, Panama, Nicaragua. And Paramount Plus has the Premiership, Hearts and Hibs at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Cabbage on display against Hearts. So that is what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. If all else fails, if you're looking for anything obscure, go to FIFA Plus. They've got everything. Brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And that link is important. Helps them, helps us, and helps you, adding more matches to everything you're already watching with Fanatis. You get BN, you get all the BNs, you get Teise out of Argentina, you have live matches with Tigo Sports, CATV, TVV out of Argentina, CDO, and all points in between. You can get all of that at Fanatis at fntz.co/soccer down here. Argentina, Liga 1 Max out of Peru. You get Colombia, Paraguay. They're all there. More leagues out of South America, all in one place. One subscription, one home. Fanatis at fntz.co/soccer down here. So there's a lot to get into today when it comes to all of your activity. We mentioned Triple C, so we've got to get into that. And it's the 2 matches tonight that we're focusing on, at least off the top, because we obviously have the other 3 matchups. You do have some crossover that is going to be starting next week when it comes to the other matchups that are around. So Pumas and San Diego FC tonight. Pumas at home a -161. San Diego FC is a +340 to win. Draws a +309. Remember the first leg, Pumas had a 1-0 lead until they didn't. Finished up 4-1 San Diego FC, and you had some bench players contributing for Mikey Veras and for San Diego FC. So it was a big result for them as a minnow in the tournament. They just have to hang on, and they make it into the next round. The other matchup, Tigres and Forge. Tigres, massive favorite at home, no surprise, considering it was a goalless draw in 17-degree Fahrenheit weather last week. It will not be 17 degrees Fahrenheit when Tigres is playing Forge. It will not be that. Might be 17 Celsius, but it won't be 17 Fahrenheit. Forge to win the match tonight is a +1705, if you are so inclined in your juice boxes. And the draw is a +705. So Tigres, prohibitive favorite. San Diego is a dog in the match, but they should be a favorite to advance into the next round. So looking at the bracket, as things may line up, first round, you have the winner of Pumas and San Diego FC taking on Toluca. That would be in round number 2. Obviously, the round of 16, times and dates to be figured out. But they have a loose construct as to the when, but they don't specifically know the when. So upper left in your bracket would be the winner of Pumas and San Diego FC taking on Toluca, who had been preceded in the tournament. Then you have, in the other matches tonight, I'm trying to see who else is going on tonight. So Tigres and Forge, winner of this one gets the winner of FC Cincinnati and the O&M. And so Cincinnati and O&M, that one will be played up, and the winner of that one gets the winner of Tigres and Forge. That is low right in your bracket. Then you have, where are my other? It's like they just disappeared on me all of a sudden. So, it's because you're only talking about the 2 tonight, John. Come on now, get your head out of your you-know-what. Okay, so the other matchups, you would have in this group that's playing in the next couple of days. Cruz Azul and Vancouver, the winner of that one gets the winner of Monterrey and Celaju, the Super Chivos, the Super Goats. And that's low left in your bracket. And then the fifth one that I was focused on was a Club America and Olympia. And the winner of that one gets the winner of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia matchup. So that's upper right in your brackets as we go. So that is the bracket with some elements filled in. We still have some of the other matchups that have to be filled in general. You've got Nashville and Atletico Ottawa is upper left, upper right. You have Philadelphia with their matchup, which hasn't started yet. Seattle is preceded, so they're good to go. Vancouver is in their matchup. So you could have Cascadia if it falls. If Vancouver wins their opening round matchup, round 2 would be against Seattle. So you'd have a Cascadia matchup in the round of 16. You would have LAFC taking on Real España. Winner of that one gets Alajuelense low left. But yeah, the winner of Monterrey and Celaju takes on the winner of Cruz Azul and Vancouver FC. LAG, if they get through their matchup, LAG's got a great bracket, by the way. LA Galaxy's got a great bracket. They go through, if they go through their opening round matchup, they get Mount Pleasant, and then they would get the winner of Toluca and Pumas and San Diego FC. So LAG's got a great run right now to get into the quarterfinals. So very, very cool stuff there with them. Now we're going to, once again, coming up in a couple of minutes, we're going to catch up with the Villanova School of Business and find out what's going on with Villanova. Nothing to do with Jay Wright, but it's going to be with Professor Bret Myers. We're going to talk about analytics coming up here in just a little bit. And so I get to find out about where the soccer part came from Professor Myers. I got to find out how much of a fan he was or is. I got to find out who his teams are, what the relationship was like with Major League Soccer, and we're going to apply his analytics to the U.S. men's national team. That's coming up in a couple of minutes. So that's your CONCACAF Champions Cup starting tonight. Once again, you've got 2 tonight, and then you end up with another couple of matchups tomorrow. Club America and Olympia. Club America, once again, big favorite. They won 2-1. It was a fight against Olympia last time out. They're minus 400 in their matchup tomorrow. We'll revisit the juice boxes in a sec. And then Olympia in that matchup to win is a plus 825. Monterrey and Celaju. Monterrey with the 1-1 draw, getting the goal at the death. Minus 1,000 to win at home against Celaju, who's a plus 1705 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. And then matchup 5 to kind of get us started in filling in our brackets. Cruz Azul and Vancouver FC. Vancouver FC was there hanging around for the first 20 minutes, but then you just kind of saw that push from Cruz Azul, and then Cruz Azul ended up winning in Langley, BC by the score of 3-0. That's what they're carrying into the second leg at a minus 667, and Vancouver FC to win the matchup, not to win the both ends to get out of the first round, but to come back and win the actual matchup on the whole. But to win the match itself, Vancouver FC is a plus 1350, and Cruz Azul big favorite at a minus 667. So that's your rundown there. Okay. As we always say when guests come into the green room early, they're on the Tom Coughlin scale. Tom Coughlin of the New York Giants, if you're 5 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, the door is locked and you can't come into the meeting. We don't go that far. But, we got professors. Professors are punctual. And Bret Myers is no different. For this, we get to check in with him at Villanova and find out about analytics. Professor, good morning. Thanks for dropping by the morning show.
Well, thank you for having me on. This is a pleasure.
Okay, so I want to get into your analytics here in a second, but my first question is, how much of a soccer person are you going into all of this study that you've had over the last handful of years?
To the max.
Okay.
Eat, breathe, live, play.
Okay.
Yeah, big part of my identity.
All right. So then who is your team? Who are your team's parentheses? Where does your allegiance lie when it comes to watching matches?
Wow. Well, I'd like to have some teams in different countries. So in Spain, Real Madrid.
Okay.
That goes back to having a roommate from Madrid and having a chance to go to Madrid and see games at the Bernabeu. It was a great time to fall in love with that club, with the Galacticos, and the likes of Zidane and Ronaldo and Beckham, Figo, to name a few. Uh, and certainly there's a culture here to latch on to a Premier League team. So I had a chance to go to Manchester and got to know some City staffers over there. And so became a Manchester City fan. Had a chance to go to Germany when I was playing in high school and stayed with the host family. They're big Dortmund fans. So, my fandom always begins with a connection. So there you go. There you have it. Real Madrid, Manchester City, Borussia Dortmund.
Okay. So with that fandom that exists, then you decide to go into analytics, and you got to spend some time with the Union and with Toronto FC. When you go knocking on their door, hey, I've got something that I'm a soccer fan, I'm a soccer nerd, and I've got something that you need to look at when it comes to analytics. How did those conversations go when you're knocking on the door of MLSE and sitting there and going, hey, I've got something for you? Or when you're, knocking on Ernst Tanner's door or whomever at Philadelphia and you're going, hey, I got something you need to look at. What were those first conversations like?
Well, I was fortunate. It's that old adage, it's who you know, not necessarily what you know.
Yeah.
And I had relationships from a player that still held true when I was kind of venturing into the space. So fortunately, I knew individuals in the Major League Soccer league office. They brought me in. They knew I was doing research in this domain, and I gave a presentation to the likes of Tim Bezpachenko, Nelson Rodriguez, to name a few, and they felt like it was a good idea for me to present to the MLS Combine. This is going back to 2013. It just so happens the Philadelphia Union coach at the time, John Hackworth, he was an assistant coach at Wake Forest and recruited me as a player.
Oh.
And so we made that connection very, very soon after my presentation. And then about a month later, we had coffee. He asked me if I could join the staff. So that kind of kickstarted a consulting career. And you also mentioned Toronto FC. That's where Tim Bezpachenko comes in after a year with the Union. He brought me over there. And, I was still balancing that with a, professor lifestyle here in the Philadelphia area at Villanova. But, had a chance to be part of that project at Toronto, which materialized in a supporter shield in 2017, an MLS Cup in 2017. And then I guess I hitched to the Tim Bezpachenko bandwagon, went with him to Columbus and 2 MLS Cups there. So, that kind of was a nice 11-year run helping MLS teams.
Did you get rings? Did you get rings as a part of it?
I did, yes. I'm happy to say, I'm in possession of 3 MLS rings. I feel guilty. There've been people in the sport who've been in it longer than I have probably worked much harder, been fully, immersed in the scene in their clubs, and here I am, able to get 3 rings in 11 years. So I'm very thankful, very fortunate.
All right. So what exactly, when you're talking to Tim and you're talking to Hackworth and you're talking to these folks, when you go in the door, you make the presentation. What is the presentation? Take me through the presentation that won these folks over, that got you these 3 rings.
It's the value of analytics. It's the value of information and how it's going to help you win. I mean, you have to speak in those terms, especially in a high competitive environment. And, it's without those things, you're behind, and you want every advantage that you can to win. And so, at the time when the early presentation I was making, this was very foreign to a lot of the coaches and front office people. But of course, since then, it's only grown. And, now where, clubs were fortunate to have a few individuals like myself working for them, there's departments around the league. So it's come a long way in that time.
What are you, for those of us that aren't the mathematicians here in this conversation, what are you analyzing? What are you breaking down? When it comes to your analytics, what are you uncovering when you're pulling the tarp off and you're looking at math? What are you explaining to these folks about analytics, how it should work on the field, how it should work off the field? What are you breaking down here? Give me your presentation.
There are different areas you can look at. You can look at your personnel, evaluating players, how they perform throughout a season, looking at your team performance, benchmarking relative to the rest of the league. You can apply to your scouting, when you're recruiting new players and potential for acquisition in the club. and then also in the sports science domain. So, maximizing players' readiness to perform, keeping them healthy. So those are key areas. We talk about the formulas for a successful operation. You want to be doing well in those areas, and data is going to be a big part of the conversation. So I help come up with what I call KPIs, key performance indicators, that we feel like are going to be necessary for the club to accomplish big goals. And and we feel like if we can hit on an extra player or two that other teams aren't able to do, that's going to give us an edge when we're building teams.
How many different tabs do you have when you're looking at your KPI? I'm treating it like RBI. So it's not like KPIs. It's like KPI to me. It's like an RBI. Runs batted in. How many different keys do you have when it comes to your indicators? I would imagine that you don't have like 27 that you might throw into an equation. You might have 5 or 6. Am I wrong? Or you throw?
Well, I mean, to your point, I mean, there could be too many and there could be too few. You got to find that right balance. And, I might have my idea of what it takes to win, but I think this is going to be best when it's a collaborative effort, when a coach can be part of that conversation, where a GM can be part of that conversation, so that within the club, it's a universal language that people are speaking. I mean, I felt like for me, I got almost more fulfillment. I mean, the rings are obviously huge, but when I come into the training ground and I hear metrics being discussed in kind of everyday language, that for someone in an analytics world is a huge win. So that's what you want. That's, you want the club vested in what's happening, and you want them to understand it and to understand how it's gonna make the club win.
So do the KPI differ from team to team, or is there a kind of a universality that's attached to it where the categories, they'll be the same ones? Or is it when you go into a different environment, they want to focus on different categories where your KPI are concerned?
It's a really good question, because I do split it between what I call production KPIs and stylistic KPIs. So the production KPIs, in my opinion, are things that need to happen regardless of how the team's going to play. I mean, one metric that you may have heard of that's gained traction over the years is expected goals.
Yeah.
And so it's just a fact that if you have high expected goals, if you have low expected goals against, you're going to have a tremendous chance to win. It doesn't matter if you're a possession-oriented team or a counter-attacking team. That's just what the production of your attacking game, the strength of your defensive game to keep the other team from producing. But depending on the coach, there might be certain things that they want to see in their team that is the identity of that team. It's how it's one thing to do things to win, but then there's sort of a roadmap on how you're going to win. And so, I've had a mixture of philosophies and coaches that I've been a part of, and some have more clear stylistic identities. I think Wilfred Nancy is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very enthusiastic about establishing KPIs, and he loved not only that, but he loved the data visualization that could come with it, and he liked colorful charts that and looking at the field of play, and so when you have that kind of excitement, enthusiasm from such an important part of what's happening and a leader in the organization, that's going to go a long way. And I'm fortunate for someone like Tim Bezpachenko, who's been data driven throughout his MLS career and seen value in the kind of work that I do.
Okay. You've given me now 2 questions.
Yeah.
How do you convert the non-believer?
Yeah, good question. And I think that was more of an uphill battle earlier on, because, I think there's when you're not sure, and I'm kind of looking at this from the standpoint of the cynic, is that here's this emerging space, and here are all of a sudden people that are coming into the organization that don't fit the typical mold. Maybe they don't have the highest degree of playing experience, the highest degree of coaching experience, but they sort of bring in this foreign concept, and it gets tense, and so
It does?
It does. It does. I mean, it could be intense conversations around that. But I think that, what I learned is that you have to respect anyone's perspective. And I think that if you close off to anything, if you close yourself off to analytics, if you close yourself off from maybe more of the traditional ways of viewing the game, I think you're at some point losing opportunity, because I've always felt like it's the collaboration, it's the harmony, it's a little yin yang. And when a key decision maker, like a coach, like a GM, has all the important sources of information and recognizes where they can complement each other, it's going to lead to better decisions at the end. So it's something that I've learned over the years. I think when I came in, to be honest, I felt like it was sort of like, my way was a superior way. And, a lot of people don't understand the inefficiencies that exist. And, you want to kind of bulldoze in your thoughts. But, when you're working in an organizational concept, you can't think like that. And so, and I think for the kind of the earlier operations, especially in Toronto, I mean, we did progress each year, but I think it was, there was a lot of, I think, organizational dynamics that had to come together in the right way for us to move forward and have the success that we had.
Has your approach differed? Has your math differed? Has the equations and your baseline differed as you developed over time, or has it pretty much been a static, numerical, analytical approach that has worked over time?
It's been dynamic. I think when I first started studying the game, and I was looking at Premier League data, for example, and I was looking at the success that Manchester City was having, kind of in their makeover in the Pep Guardiola or early Pep Guardiola days, and a lot of short passing, high possession. It made me think that was the way to play. And so, in the earlier days, I was thinking like, this correlation between different passing metrics and success, and the game changes, and so, as soon as there's teams that play that certain way, there's going to be maybe a Liverpool that is thriving a bit more on the transition, or maybe a French team in 2018 that's playing a bit of a deeper line and encountering a little more. And it just made me realize that part of the beauty of soccer is that there's so many ways that one can win, and that, as players evolve and coaching methods change, it can just invite kind of new looks to the game. And I think we've seen that, in the last, what successful teams look like nowadays looks different than 10 years ago, than 20 years ago. So, and I think with that, some of the insights get generated from analytics can change as well. And from an analytics perspective, more data keeps being generated, so there's more opportunities that open up there. In the earlier days, I'm focusing on these sort of these new events that are all of a sudden being captured, 2,000 playing events that are happening in the game, whereas now there's shifting towards the tracking, all the player movements and the off the ball activity that's going on in a game.
So when you're looking at things analytically and you have, let's just say, two coaches, yes, hydration is good. We approve of hydration here. So if you have two coaches, and you've mentioned two, so I'll just use these two. So you've mentioned Pep Guardiola and you've mentioned Wilfried Nancy. Their approaches are different when it comes to on the field play, and especially Pep year to year, he can adjust. We've seen what he's done with John Stones and having him come forward as a center back as a part of his activity offensively. Wilfried Nancy's the same to a degree, where he'll have, a Sean Zawadzki, he'll come up the left-hand side and he'll bomb forward. How do you account for, in analytics, stylistic differences within coaching when it comes to applying it to your math and trying to develop levels of success and tent poles that you need to come through when it comes to coaches? I mean, because look, I would imagine that if you're trying to come up with analytics for somebody like Sam Allardyce or Sean Dyche, it would be far different than trying to come up with it for Pep or Wilfried Nancy. How do you kind of baseline differences stylistically to make sure the analytics work?
There has to be, that's where, when I was talking about the stylistic versus production KPIs, there has to be a link between those two. So if it is going to involve, a center back pushing forward and kind of the risking of more numbers in the attacking third and just more possibilities to generate expected goals from an attacking standpoint, then what kind of protections do we have if that doesn't work? Are we willing to accept that risk? And do we have players? I think if you're going to play like that, then you have to have players that are able to transition back, or there needs to be a fluidity and flexibility in your team to transition back, because I think there's a bit of at times there can be trade-offs that you're willing to play a certain way and give up something in the game. So you can't necessarily expect to be excellent at everything, but you need to have some contingency plans in there for those types of things. So it's I think that there's plenty of games where we look at post-match reports, and coaches could be happy because maybe they've hit on their stylistic KPIs, but then they're not hitting on the production, and that can happen one game. But if it's happening over a series of games, and there's a problem, and maybe the problem that isn't necessarily a coaching problem, but maybe there's a problem that we're missing an aspect of the game that needs to be in there. Maybe we need to have something about transition defending that, it seems like we're getting forward, doing well. We're not scoring. Maybe that's part of the problem, but then we're giving up a lot of transition attacks and then conceding a high degree of expected goals per shot. So one of the things I've learned is that maybe depending on how things go in a season, there may need to be adjustments on these post-match reports or how we're looking at things. If it appears that it's we're getting a bit off track with it, not a fundamental overhaul, but flexibility to adjust, because things are going to happen over the course of the season. There are going to be injuries. Maybe there's change in tactics. Maybe there's a change in formation, and I think if the coach front office is going to be flexible, the analytics team, I think, has to be flexible as well.
Visiting with Villanova Professor Bret Myers, getting into analytics. I am going to get into the U.S. men's national team and what you think about the World Cup, but you keep opening doors for me, and I keep wanting to knock on. How do you account for, you mentioned injuries. How do you account for human error on the field of play as a part of your analytics? Say somebody misses a sitter, say somebody, and I know that XG accounts for that with like massive numbers and things like that. Somebody has a yellow card offense, somebody has a red card offense that turns into 11v10. How do you account for all of these human error wild cards in your analytics?
We look at it as randomness, it's variability, and that's natural with a lot of processes, human processes being one of them. But I think you have to kind of distinguish what you can control and what you can't control as much. And I think the idea,
not Christian Romero, that man. I mean,
but so I think that's where, if you think about expected goals, I think the idea there is that you have more control on the quality of chance that you're generating, as opposed to sometimes you don't have control on how that chance is being executed and converted, because part of it depends on the shooter, his or her ability to finish that particular opportunity, and the quality of the goalkeeping that you're going against. And so and I think that's where the metrics are very helpful, because I think if you set them up in the right way, then that almost like creates the narrative for how things are going in a match. Hey, we did everything well. We advanced the ball the way we needed to. We were able to unlock the defense to create scoring opportunities. We didn't execute at the end. It was a bit unlucky. I mean, that's where the randomness comes in. Or it's a mistake in the back. A critical error when in a game where we're having trouble finishing. It was an uncharacteristic slip that led to a pass that, and the thing that's true about the analytics when it comes to soccer, is true in a lot of sports, is that, and there's a quote that goals change games, and it's very true. I mean, game state, and that's going to my research and going back to kind of early studies I did with substitutions. I mean, it was all about the game state. It was all about whether you're tied, behind, ahead, in terms of what the best thing that you're going to do and how you're going to play tactically. So yeah, I mean, it's going back to your original question. You have to accept. I think the point is you have to accept that mistakes are going to happen, that human error is going to come in, and then just try to really hone in on what you can control.
How big or how in depth were your reports when you started?
I'll say that when I started, they were big and they weren't efficient because I just wanted to make a good impression, and I was willing to work hours, and I think I had more of the stamina than I have now to put that time in. And that's also trying to balance a family life on the home front.
That's not allowed, sir.
But what, at least over the years, and I saw it in the skill sets that other analysts had, is you got to get good at coding, and you got to get good at coding so that you can be efficient with your reports. Because if a coach is always asking for certain metrics on teams from the last 3 matches, then you need to have code that can run that very quickly. Soccer, typically, if a match is played on a Saturday night, there's an expectation that you're going to have the next pregame report maybe done by Monday, so that going into the start of training for that week, it's already set. So you've got to have some ability to, Sunday, early parts of Monday, have that report finish for the coach. So nowadays, AI can help with the coding, so that eases some of the burden, and it's going to unlock even for the analyst more ability to turn over valuable information more quickly.
So when it comes to the U.S. men's national team, do you have a chapter basically that starts when Mauricio Pochettino came in and was named manager, and he starts with his first match forward? Is that how you kind of delineate things, or do you go past that to blend in info with Pochettino? How do you break that up?
Well, I think first, I mean, there's this when you look at national teams, there's a recognition that I think the way that you look at the analytics and look at what explains success in a competition like the World Cup, that's going to be different than I think looking at the success over a 34, 38, match season when it comes to the leagues. And, the recognition that when you're in a, incredibly high stakes tournament with relatively few number of games, the game state, the in-game management is going to be much more important. And so, and the other thing is that coaches do make a difference, for sure. I mean, I think we anecdotally see that, and we track the successful coaches and the kind of impact that they can make on teams. But I've always been very sympathetic to the job that these national team managers have, because they get their teams in these short spurts of time, during these international windows. And then they're spending their time to sort of evaluating players. They don't get to have the team together the way a club comes together for their seasons. I mean, they start in a preseason period, and it's a continual flow, kind of building the concepts. But trying to build these concepts in a team while the personnel is constantly changing, and then you've got to put your best squad, your best foot forward when that last roster comes. It's a daunting challenge, and then the added pressure to be a host country. With that said, I mean, I think this is our team has kind of hit this plateau, I would say, over the years, where we're consistently making it to the second round. We have a 2002 where we break into the quarterfinals, but we just can't. And if you track the rankings, we kind of stay in this ranked 9 to 15, 16 kind of area. And I think the key question is what gets us into that top 8, what gets us eventually into the top 4. And so the analytics, when you look at, the strength of national teams, it's going to be about, how many individuals do you have playing at the highest levels, doing big things at the highest levels. I mean, I think when you look at the kinds of countries that are winning, that's what it needs. So when you have a Weston McKennie who's doing big things with Juventus, that's going to be huge for the national team. That's not to say that MLS doesn't hold value in that, because I think that ultimately soccer is a sport where it's critical that you have the depth, that you have the quality, not just at the top, but throughout the roster. So can't expect that that necessarily the entire team is just going abroad and playing there. But we have to have the league continue to improve, and I think MLS has shown over its history that it's the same thing with the economic model. I think the talent has been kind of the slow growth process. The competition has been a slow growth process, and it's still growing, and still the growing pains come along with it. But when we get MLS to be in that higher echelon of leagues where it's creeping up to be there, and then we marry that with maybe a balance of players that are playing in top 5 leagues in Europe, that's going to get us over the hump. But look, I mean, we're looking at the World Cup this summer, and I know we want to talk about that. And anytime you're host country, that's going to probably give you an extra round or two over expectation. I mean, that's what history has shown with that too. So that where I see our upside realistically being a semifinal type team, kind of getting that boost that maybe gets us over that hump of a round of 16 quarterfinal.
Have you volunteered your information to national teams in the past, whether it's the U.S. this time around, or have you sat there and it's like, hey, World Cup, hey, here, Canada, hey, here's some information have you volunteered to national teams before?
I've never kind of provided that service to national teams. I mean, I've only been a few degrees of separation just in the work I've done with MLS teams, but I know what I've been happy about is I've seen U.S. soccer over the years, both with the men and the women, invest in analytics resources, and so I know that they have that at their fingertips. Of course, it comes down to the right kind of setups, the right kind of communication to be able to successfully implement. But from what I've seen, they've done a pretty good job of recognizing its place and trying to invest accordingly.
So the gap that we have with Major League Soccer / talent pool and worldwide, I dug up while you were talking about it. The most recent numbers, Global Football Rankings has MLS at number 10. And in order, Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga, Ligue 1, Belgium, the EFL Championship, which I think is rated far too high at number 7, Liga Portugal, Serie A in Brazil, and then Major League Soccer at number 10. Mm-hmm. So for you, if I'm understanding your analytics correctly, the Major League Soccer player who is, and like I said, taking the GFR for what it is, Major League Soccer is at number 10. So if you have players in your national team that are in the number 10 league in the country, but you need to have them playing, like you said, with Weston McKennie, who's on a heater right now. So the more players that you have in those other 9 leagues help, in theory, boost everything for your national team perspective through the analytics that the numbers that you're crunching. Am I on the right path?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's finding that balance for sure. Cause I think when you talk about Brazil, cause you mentioned, I think the Brazilian league being maybe 9th on that list. And
yes.
I mean, there's a very high talent level. And that sort of gets into, I think the cultural upbringings and the touches that in a very organic, pure type way that players are getting when they're younger, and the tradition around the game. And that's one of the things about our development that's an uphill battle, which is we have very structured environments that the players train. So there's going to be those differences, but I think it does hold sometimes like the likes of Brazil and Argentina back, because a lot of those players are going to Europe, then they're having to come back and settle in with their national team. And, is their entire team going to be Europe based, or are they going to build it through domestic? But what I've seen though, I think having a strong domestic league is a factor. I think it helps Spain and England, Germany, having a strong domestic league and being able to staff their team, because everything's close. They don't have to travel too far, to go to their clubs to play in their national teams. So, I think, and I'm sure this has been, and I haven't been part of the high level conversations with MLS to figure it out, but what I've deduced is that MLS, first just try to be the best league in the Western Hemisphere. and they've been climbing up. Can they be better? Can they be clearly ahead of Liga MX and ahead of the South American leagues? And then, what kinds of, just like there've been the kind of crossover competitions in the CONCACAF Champions League, within the Western Hemisphere, what kinds of crossover opportunities can eventually exist to start to get some matches against the top leagues, so that it's and look, with the calendar changing, that is more of a possibility than it's ever been before. So those are the kind of the mechanisms where I think the league, and it's more money. Of course, money is going to be part of the equation, and as the constraints that MLS has had to impose to have slow economic growth, as those get relaxed over the years and the payrolls increased, and it's not just the top end, but the middle and the bottom parts of the roster, then you'll start to see really a jump in being part of that, closer to that top 5 conversation.
Do you account for economics as a part of your KPI when it comes to not having salary caps, money invested in players, having all the top players with a whole lot of money being paid? Is economics a part of your analytics?
Yes. Yeah. I think and I know because I've done some studies looking at the Premier League, and I'm under the impression that there are kind of rules about how much money you need to spend to increase your chances of survival in the Premier League, how much money you need to spend to assert yourself in the championship. Money buys talent, and oftentimes it's the eyes can tell you what a good player is. That doesn't mean that you don't need data, because I think that's important. Obviously, it's enormous, and this is where you've seen Brentford and Bournemouth and Brighton. These clubs that I think have robust scouting operations that now are becoming much more efficient, because if you're mining the data and you find certain players, you can be much more proactive and deliberate about who you're scouting. And that was a big part of how Leicester City built that. I mean, it's crazy, that 10 years ago they're winning a championship, and now that in the Premier League, now they are where they are. But and that's what and you have to have a sustainable operation. It's tough. I mean, we can get on that whole topic of championship and Premier League.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. But it's but there is money's a big part of this. Whether you're looking at how much you need to spend to get quality, or you have a fixed budget, which most teams do, and we're subject to some kind of profit sustainability rules, and you got to do the best with your money. Now you got to be smart, but there has to be some level of investment. I know that's where the pressure's been on MLS to invest more in the players, and when you do it right, you have exciting things happen, as we kind of saw with with Inter Miami and how that team kind of came together.
Yeah,
but it's but we also know from history that you can't just spend and spend. I mean, we've seen teams, we've seen Man United post Sir Alex Ferguson, spend money and not quite get it right for many seasons, and maybe it's finally starting to come together for them. And that's where, kind of coming back to what we talked about earlier, I think spending smart money, having the right setups in your organization, the right player development processes through academies, and then how you're managing your first team is going to be very important.
Do I need to give you a note to give to your professor to make sure you don't get a late slip or anything?
Yeah, my department chair, he's wondering what am I doing today? Going and talking soccer.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe I could use that.
I just wanted to make sure that your department chair needed a note or something. Is there a way for folks to look at work that you have published that is okay for the public domain?
Yeah, I mean, I've published some papers over the years. So, the first paper that I published was an article in substitutions. If you Google like Bret Myers substitutions, you can see that work. I've also have done research in looking at attacking third pass behavior in the Premier League, and how that kind of relates to success in managing leads in games. Just recently published a paper, it won't come out until May, on a new goalkeeping metric for the Premier League that I partnered with a student. So that's where my my research can be found out there, and I'm available through LinkedIn and some other channels too.
Okay. Yeah. Can we bookmark the conversation here so you don't get in trouble with your department chair? Because when we get to the end of the English season, we'll have promotion relegation. We'll know who's coming down. We'll know who's going up. The championship has a lot of issues with teams that have been in the Premier League in the past who have spent entirely too much money, and they don't have the results to show for it, and you're getting a lot of PSR. Leicester City is now a part of that too. Can we bookmark it here and come back at the end of the Premier League season and the season in England to look at them and find out what you see with them, how they're completely and totally just spending entirely too much money and not getting any kind of ROI on anything?
We could do that. My semester's over at that point, so I'll get less heat from the department chair. I may not need a late slip for that.
Good. Just give him a link to the show and say, hey, it's here. It's archived. This is what I was talking about. Bret, it was great to catch up with you. I'm glad that we were able to do this. And
likewise, I enjoyed it.
Thank you for the education. And I know that you'll be watching everything from Real Madrid, Manchester City, and everything MLS. Where are the rings, by the way? Where?
They're back here. I don't know if you can see them, but for the listener, so this is I'll just show you one of them.
Oh, they're in a box. Okay.
Yeah, here's the crew, the latest crew ring. Yeah, and they do put your name on it. So there's a little Myers is there.
Very nice. Okay, so it was personalized. Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Make sure no one that's like we saw it, we know it exists, but we're not going to tell anybody where it is. It's great to catch up with you, and thanks for the education today. We're going to come back and revisit a bunch of stuff as we go down the line. Thanks for dropping by on a Tuesday. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Have a good day. Yeah, take care.
There goes Bret Myers from Villanova. And like I said, if his department chair needs a note, I'll be more than happy to shoot a note to his department chair that he spent 35 minutes talking about analytics and the U.S. men's team and leagues and all these kinds of things. So that was very, very cool. Glad that we were able to catch up with Bret and find out what's going on when it comes to analytics. Something me and math, we don't mix. And that was why I wanted to ask the questions about, human error and key performances and things like that in different categories. And how do you equate those non-mathematical things into these formulas? So well done with Bret Myers. I'm glad we're able to do that. And so we've now got him hooked into the show. And so we'll talk economics and lack of return on investment when it comes to promotion relegation. We'll do that at the end of the season, and we'll circle back with that. So very, very cool stuff, and I'm glad we're able to do that with Bret today. All right, so now it is time to get into what we saw with Forbes. By the way, we do have breaking news, and it's out of Nashville. And what we were talking about yesterday is officially official. Nashville does have the club record fee for Jonathan Perez. He is now joining Chivas, and according to Nashville Soccer Club, their own selves, they've transferred him to Chivas for a club record fee plus a sell-on percentage if he's transferred in the future. And he was acquired from L.A. in August. Now he's being flipped to Chivas for a club record fee. They spent $1.5 million on bringing him in, and they now flip him for a club record fee. So that is the latest with Jonathan Perez. I want to check and see really quickly before we get into valuations, because this all kind of ties together now with what we're catching up with Professor Myers and valuations and what to look at there from Sportico. So, all right, so Jonathan Perez, officially official. So Ben Wright has sources confirming the transfer fee is $3 million. So you want to talk about return on investment? You've got return on investment. You spend $1.5 million in August, and you flip him for $3 million and a sell-on in early February. So that is a return on investment. That's the kind of economics that folks like, especially above you in your administration. So Jonathan Perez picked up for $1.5 million from LAG in August, flipped to Chivas for $3 million in mid-February. 2 goals in 32 appearances, all comps. Chivas is like, yeah, that's worth $3 billion bones. So Ben Wright says it's twice what they paid. million and a half coming in August, $3 million out in February for Jonathan Perez. And it is now officially official from Chivas because 3 minutes ago they have produced the video with all of the photos of him wearing Chivas gear when he was growing up. And they found one of the goals that he scored when he was in Nashville. So Chivas has the 30 seconds or so revealing on Jonathan Perez, 36 seconds. So it's officially official. And he'll be wearing number 18 as he is now with Chivas, and his entire family's there with him for the video. So bienvenido, Jonathan Perez. So that is officially official. Club record fee and a sell-on. So well done piece of business for Nashville. Nicely done there. Market closing, Agustin Rodriguez to Atlas, Nico Ibanez to Cruz Azul, Thiago Espinosa to Club America, Las Águilas. And so Jonathan Perez was actually met at the airport, and they got the walk and talk with him. And so they found him on the in-flight. And so they had the video made, 36. You end up with 36 seconds, and you grew up as a kid wearing Chivas jerseys. And so 4-year deal, permanent, $3 million. Good piece of business for Nashville. Quoting Mike Jacobs, developing young talent as well as selling players on are both important for our evolution as a club and the trademark of any successful club around the world. It's an important step that helps demonstrate Nashville SC's ambition on a global stage, end quote. So club record fee, sell-on percentage if he's transferred in the future. So nice piece of business done by Nashville as Jonathan Perez is officially official. Now, let's get into the valuations, and that was what we were wanting to dive into this morning when Sportico came out with their valuations of teams in Major League Soccer. Once again, full rankings, Kurt Badenhausen, he was the one that pieced this all together. And obviously, we know who's going to be at the top, but at the same time, like I said, there's some interesting stuff. There's some interesting stuff that was pieced together, and you end up with the average MLS team from Sportico's analysis. Average MLS team is worth $767 million. According to data compiled. Messi and friends obviously ranking first. Morning, Abby. Messi and friends obviously ranking first at $1.45 billion. That's return on investment. CF Montreal is last at 430. The league collectively, franchise value $23 billion with a B. $23 billion with a B. So that's what you're looking at with Sportico. LAFC is number 2 at 1.4. No surprise there. LA Galaxy is third. LAG is third at 1.17. Atlanta United is fourth, $1.14 billion. NYCFC is fifth at $1.12 billion. So you have 5 teams in Sportico's team evaluations north of $1.12 billion. Average MLS team is worth $767, up 6% year to year. And shocking no one once again, Messi and friends up to $1.45 billion, up a league high 22%. Once again, no real surprise. So that's what you're looking at with those top 5s. And I'm also trying to figure out a way if okay, so my passwords are dead. Okay, so let me see if I'm going to see if I can find, and if anybody can help me find it, then we'll find out what the full rankings are when it comes to Sportico and Major League Soccer. So let me see if I can do a bit of an end run here. But the bottom line was that in this, you're looking at 5 teams worth north of $1.12 billion. $1.12 billion. And under no circumstance am I going to pay $60 a month for Sportico. So we're just going to have to deal with the top 5s. So let me see if anybody has screenshotted the whole thing. So Sportico, MLS, team values. Let me see if I can find an in run here. And let me see. Okay, so that's not going to work. Okay. I think we have, okay, so here we go. Top 10, we'll go 6 through 10 to help things out here. 6 through 10. Seattle, so the 5 that we talked about. Messi and Friends, LAFC, LAG, Atlanta United, NYCFC. The 5 that are worth more than $1 billion according to valuations from Sportico. 6 through 10. Seattle at 915. Austin, sorry, that was not intentional. Austin at 910. Austin FC is worth $910 million in the Sportico valuation. Crew is 8th at 800. FC Cincinnati's 9th at 790. San Diego FC is 10th out of the blocks at 765. So that's what you're looking at with those. So 5 north of $1 billion. And the other 5, there's some interesting ones in there. That's 6 through 10. That's some interesting stuff. Austin being number 7 at $910 million. I'm guessing it's facilities based. Still too small a facility. Crew, new barn. FC Cincinnati, newer barn. San Diego FC, new team. New stadium, first year, all of that stuff. It would not surprise me that once Dylan Butler Estates is completed, if that one ends up with a substantial bump in the run. 5 teams topped $1 billion last year. And once again, LAFC was in the lead there in the 25 numbers. So Messi and Friends go from 1.19 to being on top of it right there. So this year, they go from 1.19 to being top of the ladder. And remember that the Crew, they had a stake sold at the $900 million valuation. And so you got your top 10. Montreal is the last one on the board. But once again, when you look at all of these, you go from 1.19 to 1.45 billion. See if Montreal lasts at 430. So that's what you're staring at with those. But the last team of the 30, CF Montreal, $430 million valuation. Below are the values of the league's 30 franchises behind a paywall, collectively worth $23 billion. 5 north of $1 billion. Austin being at number 7, that is blowing me away. And San Diego, not a surprise, at number 10. New stadia. But because of Dylan Butler Estates, I think that NYCFC will raise their number from 5 to whatever when Dylan Butler Estates is up and running. When the new stadium is up and running, then I think NYCFC's valuation will increase, obviously. So that's what you're looking at with the MLS team valuations. And we're going to try and track down Kurt and see if we can have him on the show to find out what goes into these. What goes into these valuations by Sportico. And we'll find out. So let me see if I can ask the question of the interwebs. Let's see. What factors go into Sportico team values? and it takes me to Norton. I don't want that. I'm asking a question. It's like, what goes into this? Sportico, I need to ask Sportico, what goes into for Gazinta? What's the Gazinta? What goes into Sportico's, what factors go into, I guess is probably how I should phrase it. So they just give you these numbers, but they don't tell you what it's based on. Okay. Control sale. Okay. So Sportico's team valuations represent a control sale estimate versus a limited party stake. And so, of course, the rest of that explanation is behind the paywall. Teams have been able to sell LP stakes in MLS. Average, so the MLS values themselves back in 2025. So this is how they looked at it last year, and we'll see how if we can reference it forward. So MLS's initial targets were for the revenue sharing to kick in the fourth or fifth year of the deal, the Apple deal. Messi's arrival in 23 boosted subscriber numbers during Apple's first season. Many team executives optimistic sharing component would kick in during year 3, which was last year, or even 24 if everything broke right. And this is last year's report. So 12 months later, almost no one expects the revenue share to happen in 25. Some teams are hopeful it happens in 26. Buoyed by World Cup excitement, multiple team executives painted a bleaker expectation never. And this is, once again, this is last year. This is when last year's valuations came out. This is what Sportico said at the time. The Apple deal is currently constructed provides neither dollars nor reach, limited multiple longtime team executives. Apple has an opt-out after year 5, according to multiple people. And we got into that. Okay, so Vancouver is the second least valuable MLS team at $470 million. Greg Kerfoot is the largest shareholder by a wide margin. LP owners include Steve Luxo, Jeff Mallett, and Steve Nash. Bankers and many team execs think the franchise would command a premium price if moved, but the current intent of the team and MLS is to keep the club in Vancouver. Sportico spoke with representatives from 24 teams, and the overwhelming majority favored flipping the calendar, which they did. League has cultivated a roster of well-regarded team owners who've racked up career successes across numerous industries. Big league ambitions for MLS, which requires aligning the schedule with the rest of the soccer world. So that was what was said last year. Atlanta United was at $1 billion last year, and now they're up to north of 1.1. So they're still increasing in their investment year to year, and their value year to year. So you look at all of this, and the average value to revenue multiple was 9.4 a year ago for MLS teams. Second highest after the NBA versus 5 for European soccer clubs. And so you're looking at those business decisions and the average revenue. And so when you're looking at revenue and average value to revenue multiples, value of the franchise compared to average revenue. Last year, Major League Soccer in this country was number 2. The NBA on average value of franchises at $4.6 billion had average revenue of just under $400 million. Average value to revenue multiple is at 11.9. Basically, it was for average revenue, you multiply your average revenue by whatever the number is, and that gets your value. So value to revenue multiple, just under 12 for the NBA. Major League Soccer was second, 9.4. NFL was third at 9.3. NHL was fourth at 7.7. WNBA was actually fifth at 7.3. Then you get into the NWSL. Major League Baseball, 7th at a multiple of 6.7 when it came to anything that is domestic in the United States in 2025. Revenue to value multiple, MLS was number 2 in 2025. So, you got to look at all of these things. And like I said, we'll try and track down Badenhausen to see if he can come on and explain all this stuff. But Atlanta United continues to increase in value, and it was interesting to see this one pop back up once again. So just in time to see what's going on, but Atlanta United continues to be a top 5 element in Major League Soccer. A year ago when Cincinnati sold a 4-point stake in the team, valued the club at $938 million. 10% of the equity in the club in LAFC changed for $70 million back in 2019. So there's a lot of interesting numbers that are broken down here. And Major League Soccer in May, when they had their top 50 soccer clubs in the world, 19 of those in the top 50 that were produced by Badenhausen in another piece, 19 of the clubs back in May, 9 months ago, Major League Soccer in the top 50 list. Top-ranked MLS team at $1.28 billion, number 16 overall, crossing that billion-dollar threshold. Then you had Messi and Friends at 17 at 1.19. LA Galaxy at 1.11. Atlanta United 1.08. NYCFC was 20th at $1 billion even. Austin 865. Man. 865, and they were ranked 23rd in the world in value. Seattle 25th. Crew at 33, Toronto 34, FC Cincinnati 35, et cetera, et cetera. So if you take the top 20 as is, with Atlanta United raising theirs, they would be in 18th if you use the current parameters. 18th most valuable soccer club in the world. NYCFC would go to 19. Then you would have Messi and Friends go to number 14 using last year's numbers. So LAFC would stay in that 15. Atlanta United would be 17-ish, 17, 18. So that's what you're getting right now with the top 5 teams in Major League Soccer, valued at north of $1 billion. 2023-24 revenue for Atlanta United posted by Sportico was $131 million. So it's about that 9.7 multiplier in 23-24 to put them 19th in the world. Number 2 in that ratio in this country, behind the NBA, is Major League Soccer. So you'll try and track down Kurt Badenhausen and find out what his numbers, what he found out with his numbers when it came to the methodology and all that stuff. So that's interesting to look at this and to think in 24. You were looking at the average value at $678 million compared to where it is now at $767. So up year to year 6%. But then in 2 years, you basically 2 years, you are up 14% in value on average for Major League Soccer franchises. You go from 678 to 767. So you're up 89 million over 2 years in value. So 89 and 767. Yeah, it's like 8.5, 9%, somewhere in there. That's ROI. That's return on your investment. And so the methodology that was used, once again, you're looking at, I don't want to claim the free post. I want to just read it. Account revenue, match day, commercial, and broadcast. And then you get into all the other things. So we can get in all the other factors. But bottom line is Major League Soccer franchise is up 14% over the last 2 years, 6% year to year. 5 are worth more than $1 billion. One of those being Atlanta United, continuing to increase in value. And 5 in the top 20, or 19 to the top 50. And Atlanta United, about 16, 17, somewhere in there, worldwide value. So yeah, we'll track down Sportico, and we'll find out what John Badenhausen found out specifically about what's going on with all of the valuations, because now I am intrigued. I want to find out what their parameters are, and then you look at leagues and sales and all this kind of stuff and figure out what's going on and how it all lays out there. Let's get into juice boxes here for a little bit, and then we'll get into the other news and the gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get out of here. Remember, today is the start of the midweek in the Premier League because they have FA Cup this weekend. So nothing in the pyramid this weekend, so they're trying to get it out of their system. And then midweek, set your fantasy teams accordingly. Chelsea minus 189 hosting Leeds at a plus 476. 3 of them are at 230, the others at 315. Everton favored at home. Bramley Moore Dock at a plus 143, hosting Bournemouth at a plus 195. Spurs a plus 215, a dog at home to Newcastle, who's a plus 119. Manchester United at 315 on the road, a minus 135, hosting West Ham. They are a plus 323. And remember the gaggle of the standings that are in the chase group. And if you have a good week like you had, then you could make a good climb. So we'll see what happens starting today. You have 4 matches today. You have 5 tomorrow, and you have 1 on Thursday. Brentford hosting Arsenal at the G-Tech. So we'll go over it a step at a time. 4 today, 5 tomorrow, 1 on Thursday to get you into the weekend. And then you'll get into like Thursday night football, and then you're back at it on the weekend on the 21st. So that's your rundown of anything and everything going on Premier League today, and we'll look at that again tomorrow, and we'll find out what the numbers are when it comes to all of that. We talked about the Triple C, and once again, 2 matches tonight, 8 and 10, and you will always be keeping an eye out on all of those things. You have Arne Slot in his pre-match presser admitting that missing out on Champions League is not acceptable. He is not the only one. And stupidity continues, and stupidity down here. Liam Rosenior, the head coach at Chelsea, admits that online mockery is affecting his family. Stop it, people. I hope they find him. Jacob Steinberg at The Guardian. Rosenior has opened up on it, an expected backlash. Keen to stress he's not going to allow the discussion around his personality, looks, and coaching background to stop him from doing his job. Rosenior has previously said he knows a lot of people in this country have been laughing at me, in quotes, since his appointment. Reason I know this is because I've got teenage children. They're on social media. It affects them. It affects my parents. It affects my family. But I knew walking into this job it was going to happen. It's normal. When you're prepared for it, it makes you smile. I'm a confident person. And if you're affected by things like that, you shouldn't be in this job. There's no way you can do this job if you're affected negatively by it. I quite enjoy it, to be honest. I didn't help myself with my first touch at Arsenal. That comes with the territory. I'm enjoying the job. I know in time people will start judging me on what they see on the pitch, which is the most important thing. Asked why he expected it, he said, maybe my background, maybe my coaching, being at a club the size of this is different. It's different. I'm not a massive name. I'm not a different type of club. I'm from a different type of club, have a different type of character. And remember, he was at Derby and Hull before he went to Strasbourg and got into the Chelsea system. I don't know if you're, and it says, it doesn't affect me. I'm prepared to do this job for years, for decades, and knew it would come with it. Doesn't bother him at all. So you still have people doing stupid things on social media when it comes to coaches and all of that. We were talking about Caterina Macario yesterday and her not renewing her contract. Paul Green is parting company, or Chelsea is parting company, Chelsea with the head of women's football. Joined as an assistant coach to Emma Hayes in 2013. 19 trophies in 13 years. Suzanne Rack at The Guardian. Once again, shock exit of the influential head of women's football. Assistant manager to Emma Hayes. Involved in the club's recruitment strategy alongside her. Chelsea operating 3 or 4 transfer windows ahead. 19 trophies, 8 league titles, 6 FA Cups. And obviously, folks, team players, members reached out on social media to thank him for everything that he did. It's viewed as a big piece of continuity in the success of the club. But now Green is gone. So Green's influence and role in decision-making has been increasingly impeded at Chelsea with co-sporting directors Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley taking more of an active role. Green's departure comes days after the club announced a new long-term contract for Sonia Bonpastor, who he helped recruit after Emma Hayes' departure. Unbeaten domestic treble in her first season in charge, Bonpastor has come under fire from Chelsea fans in recent weeks after back-to-back losses, Manchester City and Arsenal. First time the Blues had suffered successive losses since 2015. So that's a big loss in the front office that was a part of the build for Chelsea's women, out the door. Middlesbrough with their win yesterday over Sheffield United. They are now above Coventry in the automatic promotion spots. So you have that to look at going forward. Now that we know that battle's going to be there. Those two are going to be going at it, and you're going to see flip-flopping all the way through. 3, 4, and 5 in the championship look like they're locked in place. 6 to 15 is where the fun starts. Handful of points separating 10 teams from 6 through 15. Right now, Wrexham was in the 10th spot heading into the week, in the 6th spot heading into the week. The last promotion playoff spot would be Wrexham. And they would be playing Ipswich, if memory serves, going forward. So you have that to look at. Also, let's see, what else are we missing today? Anything going on? Everybody is having their pre-week pressers. Jean-Philippe Mateta does not require surgery, according to Oliver Glasner. Emery is interested in Jadon Sancho staying on one condition at Aston Villa, and if he keeps improving. Sounds like a big, gigantic duh, but okay. Temporary deal in the summer. Contract at Manchester United set to expire at the end of the current season. 23 appearances, 1+1. Asked if Villa would consider signing him. Emery said not yet, but he's a fantastic player. Hopefully he can help us by increasing his qualities in our structure like he's doing. So keep an eye out on that one if you're a fan of Aston Villa. So you have coaches kind of wandering through their pre-week pressers right now at the moment. Ryan scored his first goal this past weekend for Bournemouth. Unai Emery says Ollie Watkins is back available after the hamstring scare, and so they're looking to have him integrated into the lineup against Bournemouth. Amadou Onana trained also ahead of the trip to Bournemouth on Saturday, according to the Athletic, and so that was getting ready for that. So it looks like Onana might be getting closer, and Ollie Watkins definitely might be getting closer to being there at full song. So you have all of that. Now, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and we will get you into all of those discussions here. As we mentioned, it looks like CR41 might be ending his sit-out streak at 2, in a game that they darn well should win on the weekend. Expected to end his strike play again on Saturday. Missed 2 games because he's unhappy with the way the club are run. And remember, we went through the standings yesterday. They were point out first. Marcus Rashford's Barcelona future hangs on the club's presidential election. £26 million deal for him is the centerpiece of Joan Laporta's re-election bid. And remember, Joan Laporta resigned so he could reapply and run in the election. Because apparently you can't be a sitting president and be voted on in a subsequent election. So Joan Laporta he removed himself from the presidency for the 3.5-month gap. And he has applied right now. He's the favorite in the clubhouse to regain his job that he gave up so he could be in this election that he's currently back in. Manchester United is going to target Iliman Ndiaye from Everton if Rashford moves to Barcelona in a permanent. Bournemouth planning to offer 19-year-old French forward Eli Junior Krupi a lucrative new contract to ward off interest from Chelsea, Liverpool, Real Madrid, PSG. That's from the 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester City preparing a £100 million summer move for Forest midfielder Elliot Anderson. Bayern Munich are not looking at Julian Alvarez at Atletico de Madrid, boosting Arsenal's hopes of signing him. That's from Christian Falk. AC Milan confident Fulham will exercise a £21 million option to buy for Samuel Chukwueze, who's on loan at Fulham. Gazzetta dello Sport. Manchester United keen on Borussia Mönchengladbach's Rocco Reitz, valued at £35 million. Manchester United targeting Sandro Tonali, likely to have a price tag of up to £100 million. Also gaining interest from Arsenal, City, and Juve. Luis Enrique was asked about all the managerial vacancies. He says he's happy where he is. Fabrizio Romano. Real Madrid looking for a big name, may approach Jurgen Klopp. Although, according to the four-letter, Zinedine Zidane might be looking for a new run on the sideline. Liverpool board will consider the future of Arne Slot if they don't qualify for Champions League. Daichi Kamada set to leave Crystal Palace at the end of the year. Contract expires in the summer. No extension talks are there. Once again, remember, coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, doubleheader, and everything starts again when it comes to the high schools. Roswell and River Ridge tonight, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock at River Ridge. And we'll have that for you on the network. Go to soccerdownhere.net. Go to the Listen tab. You'll see a red shining light. That means that something's live. And so the matches tonight will be live, and we will have them for you up there. It'll be great to kick off our coverage once again when it comes to the high school game. And we will have action for you on Tuesday. Then we will have Creek Cup for you Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wednesday lunch is going to be the Red Clay Soccer Report. The 4A lunch, your noon lunch, should be taken care of. We're going to have a bunch of coaches coming on with us, live or on tape, and we'll break everything down with them. We know that Lake Oconee Academy is going to visit. We know that Kelly Bullard and Johns Creek is going to visit. We're efforting a couple of others to fill up the hour. That hour will be with you every Wednesday during the season. And it will be also there during every day of the playoffs. And we will let you know what's going on during the postseason as well. But during the week in the regular season, every Wednesday, the Red Clay Soccer Report, powered by our friends at NoFo Brewing, will let you know what's going on in and around the state when it comes to high school soccer and all the other cool stories that are going on in and around all of the activity that is there. So Drew Dickinson and I will have the calls for you, and it's going to be fun. Tomorrow on the show, we're stacked. It is going to be conversations with Aaron Adams of the NXT Foundation. And Aaron has a really cool initiative going on when it comes to smaller towns and smaller locations that are trying to grow the game. And we'll get into that with Aaron. Lagos Kunga, we're catching up with him this afternoon. We're going to find out what it's like for him in Portland to be a part of the Portland Hearts of Pine. We're also catching up with Ronan Wynn. That will be on the show tomorrow as well. So all over the place when it comes to tomorrow. And then we'll see if the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, can join us to find out what's going on with him. So tomorrow, Lagos Kunga, Ronan Wynn, Aaron Adams of the NXT Foundation, and all of you. We'll talk about what happened tonight in the high school game. We'll talk about what happened in the Triple C with the two matches that are going on tonight. Set you up for the two matches that are going on tomorrow, which will then be tonight when we talk about it tomorrow, and we'll go from there. So, as always, and the kit release. Take pictures, because Drew and I will be wanting to see what they look like, and we can't wait. And as I've said, I'm going to the poorhouse. I know it. So, green and gold, can't wait. Delta Hangar late this afternoon, and and hopefully you tried to get in early, because apparently there were a lot of applications to get in to see it, and the select few are the ones that get to be there. Jason and Maddie will be there for us as a part of our coverage, so keep an eye on our socials, and they're going to splash it all out there and see just what it's going to look like, and I anticipate it's going to be insane. So I can't wait for all of that. So once again, thanks for dropping by. Thanks to Villanova Professor Bret Myers for coming on and talking analytics for us for a while. And then also thanks to U.S. Soccer and James Donaldson for putting up with us as we were trying to get a signal out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 1 o'clock, U.S. Dominican Republic, a win or a draw, and they advance to the U17 World Cup in Qatar in November. Great to catch up with him to get the lay of the land before that matchup goes. So once again, thanks to all of y'all for coming on this morning and being a part of everything. Morning Four Card, morning Abby, and let's see. So morning David, morning Alex, morning Ricky, and good morning to all of you. From all of us to all of you, thanks for dropping by SDH AM. Back at it again, 9:05 a.m. tomorrow with a lot of stuff to talk about. Mucha plata, y'all. Play it safe, and since it is the end of the show, it means I get to do this. We'll see you in the morning.